cut through the morning sky toward Lake's last known position, an unspeakable dread growing with each mile. Below us stretched the untrodden white desert, its secrets locked in endless ice. Ahead, the stark mountains clawed at the horizon, a wall of nightmare black against the brightening sky. It was Danforth who first drew our notice to the skyline. With growing awe, he pointed out the jagged summits looming ahead, some impossibly high, others uncannily regular in form. Great cones, immense cubes, and terrifyingly angular towers rose from the earth in unnatural procession, just as Lake had described in his last transmissions. These forms did not suggest mere geological upheaval. Their geometry, too deliberate, too monumental, seemed born not of nature, but of alien design. They recalled no architecture known to man, save in those dreamlike depictions by certain obscure artists who imagined lost plateaus or sunken cities. Something in these colossal silhouettes struck at the subconscious, conjuring forbidden myths and evoking a primal, ancestral fear. In those shapes, I believe, some part of us recognized an intelligence not our own, and not extinct. A strange chill passed through me. These mountains of madness stirred dismal fancies I had gleaned from forbidden books. Though we had no inkling then of the discoveries to come, I believe some primal part of me already understood the dread we would uncover. We arrived at Lake's camp in the weak afternoon light. A scene of desolation greeted us, tents torn open and equipment scattered. The snow was churned and stained, though most of the bodies were gone. Those that remained were grotesquely damaged, their condition inexplicable. The sled dogs, we learned, had grown strangely agitated before the end, howling without cause, pacing, and refusing to approach the ancient specimen Lake had unearthed. What madness overtook them we could only guess. Whatever had struck Lake's party had been swift, merciless, and wholly alien. No animal could have wrought such devastation, and the evidence before us demanded a thorough investigation. We began our grim survey of the site. The tents were in ruin, torn and flattened as though by monstrous strength. Instruments lay smashed, and provisions scattered. We found grotesque remains, both human and canine, dissected with surgical precision, yet left in disarray, as though their destruction were part ritual, part rage. Near one of the collapsed shelters, we uncovered Lake's field notes, frozen but intact. They described in meticulous detail the excavation of a cave nearby, opened with dynamite after fossilized samples were found embedded in the rock face. The last entry was hurried, broken as if written in terror. Following the disturbed snow and what seemed to be dragging trails, we came upon it. The entrance to that black cavern. It yawned like a wound in the ice wall, wide and low. The rocks around it were strangely scorched. We knew from Lake's notes that this was where the first discoveries had been made. But the cavern was not the end. It was a threshold. As we moved deeper, we found old excavation paths leading into the base of the mountain itself. The tunnels widened, descending in a gradual slope, with walls of hewn stone that soon bore the unmistakable touch of design. We had passed from the known world into something older and hidden, a space not merely natural, but constructed. The darkness beyond seemed to pulse with a presence, as if the cave and what lay beyond it were waiting. We descended cautiously. What we found beneath the glacier defied belief. At first, the space opened into what seemed a series of natural caverns, but the walls quickly betrayed intention, angles too sharp, curves too fluid, proportions that disoriented the eye. The stone underfoot was ancient basalt, black and dry with the chill of endless ages. As we continued forward, the chambers grew larger and more deliberate, until we stood at the edge of a great subterranean gulf. Towering structures rose from the floor, immense blocks, tiered spires, and geometries that defied Euclidean logic. We had come upon a city not made by men. The air was still, the silence heavy with the weight of unnumbered ages. No snow had entered this buried necropolis. No wind stirred its vaults. It was not lifeless. The architecture was like none we had ever known, yet was unmistakably artificial. Towering archways, spiral corridors, and strange carvings hinted at a race older than humanity, older perhaps than life as we understand it. Here, in frozen death, slumbered the legacy of an elder civilization. We followed a descending ramp deeper into the structure. Danforth, despite his fear, was transfixed. The deeper we ventured, the more the air pressed around us, as if the stones themselves disapproved of our intrusion. We passed through great galleries where sculpted wall carvings told the story of the city's builders. They were barrel-shaped beings with starfish heads, ridged bodies, and countless limbs. Elder things, as Lake had named them. The carvings showed their rise from the primal sea, where they had first come down from the stars, mastering biology and chemistry to engineer new forms of life. Scenes depicted their construction of vast cities beneath ancient oceans, the development of language, and the codification of strange sciences no human mind could decipher. Art flourished among them. Music, mural work, and alien symmetries carved into living stone. But not all was peace. The carvings showed their clashes with other extraterrestrial races, serpentine Yithians, fungoid Migo from distant worlds, and at last, the protoplasmic horrors known as Shoggoths. Created first as slaves, these shape-shifting beings eventually turned upon their masters, engulfing cities in black, seething tides. And yet, the carvings did not end in final ruin. The elder things, it seemed, endured. The final panels suggested a retreat, deep into the caverns below, far from surface ruin and the rebellion of the Shoggoths. There, they might have persisted, carrying on their unfathomable lives in silence and shadow. That, at least, was the impression left upon us by the last of the carvings. Before long, the architecture gave way to broader corridors and naturalistic vaults, as though the hand of design had receded and nature had slowly crept in. The air grew damper, the stone underfoot uneven and slick. A faint smell, like brine and mildew, met us, organic and strange. We entered a chamber vast and dark, the walls receding into shadow. At first, we thought it empty, only uneven stone and stagnant air. Shapes shifted in the gloom. Not movement exactly, more a suggestion of form pulling away from the surrounding rock. And then we saw them. Blind albino penguins, grotesque and unseeing, enduring in this forsaken deep against all logic and nature. Their eyes were sealed with time, blind sockets staring into nothing. They did not startle or flee. Instead, they cooed low and rhythmic, as if chanting in sleep. Their presence struck us not as a curiosity, but as a warning that life persisted in these depths, altered by more than time. We pressed onward, shaken by what we had seen, yet compelled by the city's relentless pull. The architectural rhythm shifted again. The rough, naturalistic vaults narrowed into deliberate corridors, walls bent at disquieting angles, ceilings etched with strange patterns. It was as if we had passed through a membrane and re-entered the heart of something ancient and watching. Then the carvings began to return. They emerged first in broken bands, chipped and faint, glimpses of panic and violence half erased by time or something worse. With each step, the pictographs became clearer, more urgent. They told not of triumph, but of fear, not of endurance, but of collapse. Near the bottommost galleries, the walls bore fresher markings, scratches, gouges, and a strange trail of slime. Danforth and I exchanged no words, but we both knew something still moved in these halls. The final image was a crude carving of a Shoggoth, vast and formless with a single terrible eye. It was not a historical record. It felt like a warning left for us. The carvings had ended in horror, but the silence that followed was worse. In those final passages, the air grew heavy, saturated with dread. The trail of slime thickened, its stench undeniable. Walls seemed to sweat with unseen moisture. And then we heard it. A rhythmic, wet thudding echoed through the corridor behind us, as if something enormous was dragging itself across stone. We did not speak. We did not hesitate. We ran, fleeing blindly through the cyclopean corridors, the echo of that dreadful pursuit growing louder behind us. There was no clear path, only instinct and terror. The architecture warped and folded around us as if the city itself resisted our escape. Behind us came a gurgling roar. Not quite a voice, but something worse. Mimicry without understanding. Mockery without mercy. We turned a corner, and the sound fell away for a breath. We did not know if we had lost it, or if it had merely paused to listen. We did not stop. We ran.
You've reached the end of the signal. If the story held you, stay with us. Like and subscribe. It really does help. There are more corridors ahead, more transmissions waiting to be heard. Thank you for listening.